Alright, hello and welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. Today, let's take a look at how to create some clouds using the physical sun and sky simulation. A lot of the times you'll be looking for something to add into that sky and you'll need clouds because clouds are beautiful. So anyway, let's take a look at how to create some clouds using the, say, physical sun and sky node, and also assigning a 3D fluid container, which technically these clouds, as you see here, they're growing, and I have a couple of them overlapping. And these are presets that are found in the 3D fluid container section, and we're going to take a look at how to create these and add a little bit of dimension to your skies. And it's real simple to do. I'm going to go ahead and hit pause on that, and let's get that out of the way. Come down here and let's go and just take a look at what's happening in Maya. Here's the scene as I have it now, and you'll notice it's just a simple plane. I have some grass or some fur assigned to that plane, and then I have two containers up here. They're basically the same thing. I created one cloud container, a 3D fluid container, and then just duplicated it and shaped it a little bit differently. And so let's take a look at how that's playing out now. In the animation you saw before, you could see some overlap in the clouds and they would grow in the sky. Now, I don't know if the timing is quite right for this. I'd probably mess with the timing a bit. This is just a quick simulation to kind of show you the concept. And really it's about the concept with this, because we're dealing with trying to make some pretty complex calculations fairly simply. And as far as fluids go, it can really tax your computer. So be aware of that. You want to be setting your render settings kind of small for the start. So I'm going to push pause. Let's zoom out a little bit and take a spin around this scene. As you can see, there's some boxes, and those are 3D fluid containers right here. And those fluid containers are basically assigned a cloud. No big deal. So pretty simple. You can see I have my plane, and I have some grass assigned to that. And then also there is the physical sun and sky node that I have assigned through Mental Ray. So before you get started with this, you might want to go into your render settings and just sort of take a look at what your quality is. For the moment, we'll set it at draft just to give us quick renders. Don't worry about anything else. And then go into your indirect lighting and activate your physical sun and sky. So go ahead and click that and you'll get your physical sun and sky. We're going to go through setting this up from scratch, so don't worry about that now. Just be aware that we're going to be assigning the physical sun and sky. And that's about it at the moment. And as you can see, if I just sort of choose one of these, I'll choose this one, for example. And you'll notice that over in your attribute editor, you'll have a fluid shape, and then you'll have some various other tabs that go along with that. Now, I animated the fluid shape drop off, and that gave me some values and some things to look at here, but I've already keyframed those in, so this just sort of will take you to another node that gives you some more control. But anyway, no big thing to worry about right now. Let's just look at this fluid shape. As you'll notice, there are a ton of options to start working with as far as fluid shapes go. Go ahead and roll out most of your drop down menus here, and we'll sort of take a look at what these are and what they do with a simple cloud. And we're going to stay really simple here. We're just going to look at what a cloud is from default and then fine tune it from there. So you can see as I scroll through here, there's a ton of stuff to mess with. The color, the incandescence, and this is where really the color of the cloud and the incandescence of the cloud will show up. Here's my last render that I did with this simulation, so you can kind of see where by default you're not going to get these colors, but I'll show you more about that later. But that's just something to be aware of. We're going to change these colors, and we're going to mess with the edge drop off and stuff. So let's get started. First, I'll get rid of the render view, and let's go. I'm going to maybe do a save scene, and then we'll create a new project real quick and just start from scratch. So we'll go to File, and I think I'll just do a new scene, and hopefully we'll start with a new scene. Okay, File, new scene, and I'll hit Save, Continue. All right, now I have a new scene. So real quickly, let's just create like a polygon plane. Just create a quick plane, and then in this case we don't really have to do much else other than just sort of assign the physical sun and sky. So let's bring up the render settings. If you come over here and just activate your render settings, and we're going to switch from Maya software over into Mental Ray, and we'll be in Mental Ray. Let's look at this quality and set the quality, make sure it's at draft for the moment, and in this case it is by default. And through indirect lighting, just click in there and click on your create physical sun and sky, and there we go. So we'll just leave everything at default for the moment. I'll move that out of the way. Now you'll do a quick render. Let's sort of put that more at an angle of where we'd be looking at, and let's take a quick render. I'll click on my render over here, and essentially that's what I have right now. You can see where this is my plane, this is my horizon, and if you look at your physical sun and sky, you'll notice that you have a horizon height, and that's referring to this line along here. So sometimes you need to change it. If I put the horizon height at a +1 and we do another quick render, you'll notice it goes way up there. We don't really want the horizon up there, so that's just something to always be aware of when you're working with this. It just sort of helps you get things aligned. So I'm going to set my horizon height to a -1, and I'll go ahead and do another quick render, and it's sort of out of the way there, so I guess that's good. But I have a nice blue sky, and I have, that's the ground color. So let's assign the plane with something here. We'll go over here, activate your plane. Okay, just make sure that your plane is chosen, and in this case I think I'll just choose, if you have these tabs up here, you might want to just go into say fur, and in this case I just went to the applied grass fur preset, and boom, there you go. So that gave me some grass. All right, that's good. I'm going to switch back to my general tab over here so I can get to some of my controls real quick, and I'm going to do another quick render and just sort of make sure that everything sort of looks good with that. And as you can see here, the render is taking a little bit longer, and that's because I added this huge paint effect strokes. So from here on out we won't really be doing a lot of work with rendering because it can that'll take up like hours of time. So anyway, that's what you can expect from doing this type of thing, is just spending hours of just readjusting various colors and things like that for your grass and stuff like that. But for the moment, that's by default what we're getting right now. I think what I'll do in this case now, because I know I have my grass and I know I have my skies, I want to get that 3D fluid container in there now, which will be the cloud. So first, though, when you're dealing with the physical sun and sky, I like to always come over into the Hypershade and look underneath the utilities, and then find that physical sky and the sun, both of these nodes. And sometimes you have to make sure you have your choose tool on over here to be able to click on that and make sure it's activated. So these kind of mimic each other, and most of the adjustments you make are going to be made to the physical sky right here. So in this case, I want to bring the overall light value down a little bit, and that's controlled by the multiplier right here. And right here it's at 1, and if I did a render, you can see where it's at, but I'm going to move this multiplier to like 0.500, and that just takes the edge off the light a little bit. I'll do another render from here now that I lowered that, and we'll see that this sky kind of well, it'll sort of be a little bit better looking. You can already see that the grass is not as bright, and the sky is a little bit more blue. So anyway, it's just something to be aware of. This multiplier sort of controls the intensity of the sunlight, but you can also make adjustments to that light with your actual light right here, which sometimes you'll have to go over and find it in the outliner, and that would be your sun direction. And if you click on that, you'll notice that you'll have intensity controls here, so I could turn that down a little bit there as well. So just something good to know. All right, now that we have that set up, let's create a 3D fluid container. I'll go ahead and back off the scene a little bit here, and let's just sort of go back to our home view. And in this case, you're going to want to make sure that you're on your rendering menu set. Oh, excuse me, not rendering, I think dynamics. Yeah. You want to go to your dynamics. Make sure your dynamics is set, and you'll notice that you have fluid effects right here. And you'll go to fluid effects and just create a 3D container. And there it is. So now that we have this container, just by default, it sort of looks like it's just a container. And if you spin around, you'll notice it's sort of centered out in the scene. Well, we can do anything we want with this container at this point. In this case, I'm just going to bring the container up a bit. So I'll just grab the container and bring it up. And now we have lots of possibilities. This is an empty container, and you'll notice that it says it's a fluid shape. And we can have a preset to apply to that. So you can attach anything you want, like atomic orbitals, blobs, cloud bank, menthol, flower nebula. In this case, we're just interested in coming down and going to the thick cloud puff, moving over on top of that, replace, and boom, there's our thick cloud puff. But if you'll notice, when I render this thick cloud puff, it'll take a while. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but anyway, you'll be messing around with this quite a bit, so get used to waiting on your render times. By default, that's what it looks like. You can see we have a thick kind of cloud puff, and here's a shadow underneath, because it's actually picking up a shadow from the physical sun that is shining down on the scene. So the first thing we can do with this, because that's rarely how a nice white subdued cloud would look in the sky, is we're going to have to kind of mess around with the color and the incandescence a bit. And in this case, you could go and select a color of, say, like a white, and then a middle value right here of maybe a mid-gray. So just sort of play around with those, maybe a mid-gray that has a little bit of color to it. And we'll also play around with this incandescence. Let's bring this incandescence up right now, because what this incandescence is affecting is all of the coloration of these shadows and things that are inside of these folds and whatnot. So if we just sort of up our values here, if you go to your color chooser and just sort of play around with some of these values here, you can get some better looking effects. And so I'll just keep on sort of lightening these up a bit, and keep them in the higher levels. And this black one will sort of set for like a mid-gray. And now you can see where we have some variance here. In this case, I might even want to, just put this color right here, click in there, and give it a like maybe a bluish color. I don't know, maybe something in the middle there. But anyway, you'll notice that you now have sort of some various gradations going on and whatnot, and that's cool. So let's take a render on this and see what happened to this. Now we're looking at just the cloud. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll do a quick render. And you can see where the cloud is starting to take on these new properties that we've messed with. So just something to be aware of. Another thing that you're going to be looking at on here is what's known as the edge drop-off. If I go ahead and take this edge drop-off up quite a bit and then do a quick render, you'll notice that it sort of creates a smaller edge, it gives it a little bit more opacity around the edges. And there you go. So let's see what else we can do with this. I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to drop down here and take a look at, there's all sorts of different stuff to play with here, and some stuff makes a difference, some does not. It's sort of hard to say, because depending on what you're doing with a fluid inside of a container, you can add heat and fuel and other things to make this react. But right now we're going to make this react by just animating the texture. So I'm going to look for a couple of different properties in here. Let's come up here and look at, well, we have glow intensity that we can mess with. You'll notice fuel, but we don't have anything added there, so we really don't need to worry about any of these dynamic properties. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. It's almost mind-boggling how much stuff there is in these 3D fluid containers. And it's just a matter of finding some of the various qualities that you can alter to sort of animate these. Let's see here. I'm looking for we can look for a couple of different things. In order to change this, though, you can always say flatten it out, and that's what I did with mine. Is I first started working with these properties, which were just the scaling properties. And in this case, I scaled it like that and started with sort of a shape, and then worked from there. I'll do a quick render on this just to see what it looks like from a front view. And of course it takes forever. You can imagine if you were in high quality rendering and doing a fly through or something like that on a scene like this, it would really be taxing. I mean, your renders would take a long time. So that's how Mental Ray is crushing through this. And it's giving me a cloud. It kind of looks funky, but that's what you're going to have to spend a lot of time with your colors and figuring out how you're going to make it like that. Now, the other way, or a way to start animating movement on this cloud, is to sort of like move it across the scene. So you could bring it over to one side and then sort of go into your attributes for that and do all your translation and scale or whatnot. Go ahead and right click and key selected, and basically put a keyframe on all of that. And then if your animation were, say, 200 frames long, you might want to bring this cloud all the way across the scene like that, and then go ahead and key selected. So now, what did it do? Oh, that keyed. Okay, got my keyframing off. I'm just going to go ahead and go to keys and delete keys. That deletes all the keys that I set for here. So this is my starting point, so I'll go ahead and right click, key selected, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the end, and we're going to move this over all the way like that, and do a right key or right mouse click, key selected. So now everything moves across the sky the way it should. It's a little fast timing wise, but you get the picture. That's a moving cloud. Now sometimes you might not want to look at just a side profile of the cloud. It might need to be adjusted, and in this case this cloud might need to be adjusted to an angle something like that. Feel free to play around with your different angles and placements with this stuff, because it's going to make a big difference. Now let's go on to creating a duplicate of this. If you just go to edit and go to duplicate, we can go ahead and duplicate that, and now we'll have two of them. So we could alter them a little bit, maybe move this one around like maybe like that, and maybe down a little bit, I don't know. And you can put clouds kind of all around your scene and have them sort of animated in the same way. Now there's lots of stuff to play around with. You sort of have to, let's see if we can get into some of this stuff. Look around for anything that you can animate, and remember, you can add more glow intensity, you can add more transparency, and as you can see, you can animate transparency over time too. So if you want to go from something that's sort of like a transparent cloud right there, I'm going to bring this in here. Let's do a zoom in and sort of come back here, and we'll do another quick render. So there you go. I really like the new YouTube time limit. I can now go up to, gosh, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So I get so used to trying to do them in 15 minutes that it's a little fast paced. So now we have more time to look at this. So that's great. Well, anyway, now you see where we have very little. We have an opacity level that's down there. But what if we were to animate that opacity level when it's right there, and animate that as we go up in time? So let's say that this is coming across here, and we animate the opacity level. Let's look at doing that. So let's find our opacity. Here's our transparency on our shading. We may want to be on our opacity level. Where'd it go? Oh, there's its transparency. So anyway, we could set a keyframe for this on frame number 1 and set that transparency level to right there. And then as it moves across the sky and gets to maybe right about there, we may want that transparency level to go away and it gets much thicker. So I'll go ahead and maybe put it there somewhere like that, and right mouse click and set key, and you'll notice it sets keyframe, and we're still ready, we're still rolling. So as you can see, it moved through the sky, it gains more in transparency, and at the end right there, this was the beginning render view, and now let's take a quick end render view. And you'll notice that the cloud looks like it has a lot more volume to it. So anyway, it's a matter of finding all of those various properties that you can animate in different ways. You're not necessarily creating a 3D fluid container to actually interact necessarily. I guess you get the point. So there it is. You have another cloud. So essentially that's the concept. Those are the things you're going to be wanting to look at, and feel free to play around with lots of this stuff. It may be self-explanatory, it may not be. Just sort of try some stuff out, but that's sort of a starting point of how to work with these different things as presets. I could go ahead and say that container, since it's active, I could click on this preset and maybe switch it over into something different, like let's say I go to Jellyfish Nebula and I go to replace. Well, it may or may not let me do it. This is telling me all sorts of problems are going on there. So let's do a quick render and just see what happens. We'll see if we get a Jellyfish Nebula. It may or may not work. A lot of times just create them from scratch. Just go to create 3D container and create a container from scratch and assign it one of the presets and play around with it. And I'll probably do another tutorial on the same kind of thing with other materials later on, but for now, there it is. It doesn't look so much like a Jellyfish Nebula. However, it's a really cool effect. You can see where it's picking up the color values and its incandescent values, and here's the color of the Jellyfish Nebula palette. So it's kind of working with both of those to make that. So a cloud doesn't always have to be a cloud. Remember that. It can be kind of a vapor, a smoke, a fog, whatever has that property. So okay, my friends, well, there it is. That's how it's done. We got through it, and as always, be a good person, read a book, learn something every day, and thanks for watching.